Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another Galaxy of Heroes video. Today we are talking all things Sector 2 of Conquest for Luthen Rael, and I have got the cheesiest guides that you'll ever need. Let's break this down. Here we are in the wonderful Sector 2. Let's first and foremost take a look at some of our feats. So, we need to win 10 battles with a full squad of Nightsister units, we need to defeat 35 enemies with Rebel fighters as well as Imperial Troopers, and we need to attempt to inflict Potency down 50 times or more. These are actually all pretty easy feats over here. The only one that might take you a little bit of time is the Nightsisters units, because unless you've got a really strong data disk setup, you are going to need a little bit of stamina. So I'm going to break this up into two sections. For me, I'm going to do like 5 battles one day, come back after they've recovered some of their stamina and finish them off at the end. Before we begin, let's take a look at the data disk setup. Now, for every single battle in this video, I am using the following data disk setup. Unstable Decelerator with 3 lots of Amplify Agony, 2 of which are green, 1 of which is grey, a blue Ruthless Swiftness, and a green Volatile Accelerator. This works by basically applying a number of dots every single time I do any sort of damage to an enemy. Amplify Agony is then going to deal percentile max health damage to the enemy for each of those dots that are triggering. I am then going to reduce their turn meter, which is going to counteract against the Volatile Accelerator's turn meter gain, and then whenever the enemy drops below 100% health, I'm going to gain a big juicy boost in my own turn meter. It's a very powerful setup, not particularly useful if you need to apply debuffs though. We're going to start off with the Potency down feat. We can get the Potency down feat done in one battle. If you so choose, you can try to get it as you go through the battle. As you go through the sectors, you can try to just bring in stuff like GMY, who applies Potency down on a basic. You can try and just get it through the sectors, but if you really want to just do it in one battle, we can get it done at the end on the Sector 2 boss node against Bosk, because they're funny, they're very, 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 very tanky. And because we're applying lots of debuffs, they're actually just healing up all the time, so you can basically keep them alive almost indefinitely. The other benefit of this is I'm actually going to be using Saw Gerrera with it. I will be taking him into the team so that we can actually double up. We can get the win with Saw Gerrera, and we can get all the Potency up feats done, Potency down feats, apologies, in one battle. Let's show it. The team we are using is as follows. We're using Jedi Knight Revan's leadership. We're using Grandmaster Yoda because of his basic. His basic over here, Ataru form, it will apply Potency down for one turn. You don't have to land it. It can be resisted. Absolutely fine. That's not a problem at all. We're also going to be taking in Jedi Knight Luke Skywalker, and I took in Shak Ti because I happen to like Shak Ti. She keeps people alive. And I was using my Gear 12 Saw Gerrera to get this done because he needs to be there and survive. You'll need to have at least a little bit of gear on him, minus Gear 12. Trash tier modding, I want to say. Yeah, he's got basically nothing, no additional gear pieces. Those abilities don't matter, so don't worry about it. And here we go. So the reason this works is Bosk's leadership will let them heal health and protection whenever they resist or have a debuff. So we're going in and we basically can't kill them. You want to make sure that you keep your Saw Gerrera alive. This is why it's kind of useful to have Shak Ti, because she is able to heal him up and dispel some of the buffs on him. But apart from that, we are just looking to drag this battle out for as long as possible with GMY and with Luke and Revan. They are going to be able to reduce the enemy stats, deal loads and loads of debuffs over here. If you notice, when we're attacking Jango Fett here, just watch his health and protection. Doesn't move. Just not even a little bit. Doesn't move even in the slightest. And we can just pass things around, and yep, he fully heals up, and then we hurt him, and then he stops getting hurt. And then we call in GMY, and it doesn't do anything. And then we do a basic on him, and it doesn't do anything. You see what I mean? Yeah, it's a little bit weird, right? A little bit weird. So we nearly lost Luthen. We nearly lost Saw Gerrera there. So the idea behind this, guys, is that you're just going to be focusing on Jango Fett. Boba Fett also stays pretty much unkillable for the entire match for as long as possible, dragging it out. You can kill the allies, and they will actually slowly die, because as soon as they take a turn, even though they are recovering when they've got those dots, when 26 plus dots trigger all at once, it tends to kill people. Well, maybe not 26. If you've got like 100, it'll absolutely do that. And you will slowly ramp up the dots on the entire enemy team. You've got a number of AoEs. The repulsibility from Jedi Knight Luke is going to be reducing their max protection. It's also going to be reducing their defense. And yes, it will apply additional dots. Eventually, they'll take a turn. and those dots triggering all at once will kill them. Now, what you can do with Jedi Knight Revan is you can start direct focusing other characters. I find other characters are actually easier to kill for some reason than Boba Fett and Jango Fett. Maybe it's because they've got locked buffs with that Bounty Hunter's Resolve, meaning they take less damage. I'm not even sure why. They tend to get to this, like, I've got 10% or 5% of my protection, and now I just don't take any damage. It's really, really strange. But once they've lost that Bounty Hunter's Resolve, it becomes a lot easier for them to die. And they will die eventually when it comes to them taking a turn. You'll see in a second now, we'll just start putting direct focus on other characters. I recommend calling in GMY to assist as frequently as possible, because every time he assists, as we said, he is going to be attempting to apply Potency down, which is the feat that we're looking for. We don't really have to worry too much about the enemy. Like I said, when they do take turns, they're almost certainly going to die. 56 dots is a rather large amount of dots, and we will start putting direct focus on other characters like Embo and Bosk, for example. So I'm just going to speed up the playback speed on this, because it does take a little bit of time. There we go. We're back up to 2 times speed. You saw Dengar took a turn there and died. Bosk took a turn there and died because of all the dots on them. And we're just going to keep on going. Just keep on going. We'll pass over direct focus, I believe, over to Boba, and then eventually over to Embo as well. And the only reason we're able to kill any of these guys is because they take a turn, they lose their Bounty Hunter's Resolve, and everybody has a good time. It's great. It's great. So if you really want to make sure that they actually start taking turns, then you should probably look into not reducing their turn meter. So if you remove things like Unstable Decelerator from your data disks, it'll make this a bit easier. Well, I think it will. It might actually cause them to take too many turns, and then you'll never kill them, but I'm not entirely certain on that, not entirely sold. But yeah, it's pretty simple, pretty straightforward. The only real risk here is that one of the bounty hunters gets loose and, say, uses a rocket to one-shot your Saw Gerrera. Obviously, the more gear you have on Saw Gerrera, the easier it's going to be for you, ladies and gentlemen. So slowly, let's actually just speed this up a little bit. You can see over here, we are down to 2.5 minutes, and Jango Fett takes a turn. The game has a little bit of a hard time calculating all those dots, but now that Jango Fett has lost that Bounty Hunter's Resolve, he folds like a piece of parchment. A wet piece of parchment, and then Boba Fett takes a turn and instantly dies. And that's it, really, guys. That will get you the Saw Gerrera, that will get you the potency down in one go. Not so bad, eh? For the Imperial Trooper kills, you can totally get them as you're progressing through the node. However, if you're really looking to get a bunch of kills right at the end, you can do it on the Mon Mothma node right at the end, because there is a source of infinite reviving here. It just takes a little bit of luck, a little bit of RNG, and a little bit of finagling. What I would recommend, if you have any consumables that ups your crit chance, I don't know if I've got one at the moment, defense pen, no, I've got nothing that increases crit chance right now, but if you do have a consumable that, say, gives you 50% crit chance or 100% crit chance, go ahead and apply that, because we want to be able to crit in order to keep our Xaereth Rebel Pathfinder gaining buffs, essentially. Gaining those buffs so that he will never truly die. So the team that we're going to be using is going to be a Via's lead. You want to have Colonel Stark with you. The reason I recommend Stark is because he's got this scan all wavelengths buff over here, which gives us crit chance up to the entire team. We are going to take in Piet because he's just a strong unit, and I took in Scout Trooper, and for the last position I actually take in Wat Tambor. Now the reason I take Wat Tambor in is because if you use Wat Tambor's basic at the start of battle instead of applying one of your techs, it's going to give buffs to the entire team, which is then going to give us turn meter. It helps us take our first turn, essentially, because the enemy team is quite fast. We don't want to lose a unit. So let's roll the footage. So we use our basic over there, we gain some turn meter. You see the enemy team does still interrupt us, and I'm going to place Emperor's Trap over here on Scout because I want that little bit of extra turn meter, and she is also the chankiest. Now we're only going to focus on Xaereth Rebel Pathfinder, okay? You want to be essentially getting those kills at the start. Obviously you might have to get rid of Baze, that's not really a problem. Once we've got rid of him, great, we're going to gain turn meter. Don't use that first special from Scout. With Scout, all you want to be doing is basicking and never apply the weapons tech, okay? We use the scan all wavelengths for the crit chance up, and now we're just going to go auto basic over here on Xaereth Rebel Pathfinder. Every time we're critting him, that Chirrut is going to be passing a heal over time to him. If he's got a heal over time, he is going to revive, because he revives whenever he's got a buff. So we go ahead, put auto basic in, and we get, as long as we're critting him, he is going to gain a buff. As long as he's got a buff, he is going to revive. So we managed to get quite a few kills here. I'm not even sure how many we get. It's probably somewhere in the region of 15-ish kills. And then, unfortunately, we managed to miss a crit. So he doesn't gain that buff, unfortunately. I was just looking here on Scout Trooper to see if Scout Trooper has got a source of crit chance up. Unfortunately not. So just do a basic over there. We still manage the crit. We do that extra buff from Veers over there. Stark, rather, to gain that crit chance up. And we just keep on going once again. Get a couple more kills here, quite a few more actually. It's a really good way of getting this done, as you can see. Lots and lots of kills coming out here, far more than you'd get, but unfortunately there we go, we lost the kills there because we didn't land that crit, unfortunately. But hey, this is still a very efficient way, and theoretically you could probably get all 35 kills done in one battle. So we can take the exact same approach with Mon Mothma Rebel fighters, just don't summon the additional unit. I'm taking in here Biggs because he can pass crit chance up on a basic, and Captain Rex can also do it with his first AoE. Again, you want to try and focus on Xaereth Rebel Pathfinder, there's one kill there. Obviously, you might have to work your way around bays and that sort of thing. But again, 2 kills there, just focus on Xaereth Rebel Pathfinder if you can. I don't manage to make this last indefinitely. Don't summon the extra unit. That extra unit will dispel every time on a basic, which can cause you some issues. But this is still the best node to try and farm kills on in this sector. You could also do it on Nightsister nodes like we did for the Sector 1 video. If you haven't watched that already, please go ahead and check that out. Principles are exactly the same. You should be able to get at least 10 kills, probably more. If you're very lucky, you can get all the kills done in one battle. So I went in for the AoE there. You probably shouldn't, just in case, because, you know, like there's a chance that you could theoretically hurt all of the enemy team a little bit too much, and that's never going to be so good for you. So yeah, it should be relatively okay to get this done. You might want to change K2SO, potentially speaking, for somebody else that might be a little bit more useful to us. Perhaps gaining a little bit extra turn meter with someone like Hoth Rebel Scout. I believe he has a chance to generate turn meter on a basic to help you constantly roll, similar to the Imperial Troopers. Mine is too low gear, unfortunately I haven't really invested in him, so he doesn't really get such great work done. I found a little bit better luck doing this sort of thing. Now unfortunately, if you do get multiple attacks like that where we just didn't land a crit, he is not going to revive, which is a bit of a shame. You can see if you can try and drag it out with Mon Mothma, see if she can get round to a revive and revive that scout. But there's no guarantees that that'll ever happen. You might just end up TM rolling at this point. But overall, it's actually it's a pretty reliable way of getting a solid amount of kills. And there we have it. When it comes to Nightsisters, they are actually pretty good, especially if you're running either Zealous Ambition or if you're running the Volatile Accelerator Amplify Agony setup that I'm using. You can burn them down quite heavily. Unfortunately, you can't make 2 really good teams out of this, but I don't think it really matters. I think if you go through, I did like 5 battles as I was going through, brought them down to about 50%, using Mother Talzin, Daka, Merrin, Asajj, and Zombie. Unfortunately, we can't quite make 2 full teams. Maybe you could choose to sacrifice an extra unit and get like an old Daka lead or something like that. But honestly, I would just farm the bonus nodes at the end and get these guys going. You probably can get some luck out of them if you've got Merrin by burning them all the way down to like 1% stamina if you've got a really solid data disk setup. But generally speaking, I would just take it against the mini boss nodes, or sorry, the end sector bosses, so that you can start earning yourself some datacron materials. They really are quite sturdy and they deal a lot of damage thanks to all the debuffs that we're putting out over here. I'm just going up against the sector to boss node, not the boss node, the bonus node over here, just so I can earn some additional data cash and get some additional datacron materials. As you can see, they take a lot of turns, but eventually we take a turn and then it's usually game over for them because we can just input so many debuffs on them very, very quickly. That plague starts spreading like wildfire. Here we go, big AoE from Mami Talzin, and they all just get absolutely shredded, truth be told. Absolutely shredded. And that's no real bad thing. So you can farm datacron materials whilst also getting your kills. Like I said, I was able to quite successfully use Nightsisters against several nodes as I was progressing. As long as you're not going up against anything too dangerous, you should be okay. That's all of the sector feats then. Let's take a look at the mini-boss and the boss node feats. So, mini-boss is up against Keller and Beck. We need to defeat an enemy with Sabine Wren, and we need to win with a full squad of Galactic Republic surviving. So, let's start off with Galactic Republic surviving. In my opinion, the easiest team to use is General Anakin Skywalker and his 501st allies. You really don't need a guide for this. You could probably go in and hit full auto. Now, don't get me wrong, if you have JMK, for example, you've got JMK Cat, absolutely use JMK Cat. You could throw in Master Qui-Gon Jinn and Padawan Obi-Wan and start working towards that global feat at the same time. I'm just trying to find teams for people that perhaps don't have those GLs, but maybe have some of the other A-list teams. Other teams that would be useful here are teams like Padme teams, if you happen to have a Zealous Ambition Datacron setup, a data disk setup, apologies, because she does boatloads of damage as she is a support type unit. But look, they've barely even touched us, truth be told. They barely did anything to us, and we've just completely swiped it. Okay, let's get the Sabine kill done. I decided to throw Sabine under a CLS team. So full CLS, I dropped out C-3PO, and I just threw in Sabine. This can be a little bit tricky to nail down. You could also try and throw it in with, like, Maul Mandos, potentially. There's a lot of damage on a CLS team. They're one of the best Conquest teams just in general. All you want to do is you want to try and find a location where an enemy doesn't quite have full health, and then you just want to see if Sabine can come in and swipe a quick victory. Unfortunately, she's actually guarded, so it's calling in Chewbacca to assist her all the time. So I got a little bit unlucky there. I tried to bring enemies down, and at this point I was like, damn, it doesn't look like I'm actually going to get anything done here. That's a real shame. I'll just do a basic here. Oh. And we get the kill done in the end. And that was actually as easy as it could be, really. So the boss node, we've already gone over Saw Gerrera surviving. We did that earlier with our Potency down cheese. Win with a full Empire squad is also surprisingly easy though. So I decide to go in with an EP Mara Jade comp again because it's fast and it does a lot of damage. They do take a number of turns, and I believe we lose our Palpatine right out the rip, which does kind of suck because they're just stupidly fast. But as soon as we actually start to take turns, that's when we actually turn the table. Now, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, Scribe, there's just like too much recovery. How are you going to kill anything? Well, in two ways. We've got Vader for one. You know what Vader really loves? He loves it when an enemy's got a bunch of dots. So he can just one-tap people with his culling blade. This volatile accelerator is just putting so many dots on the enemy team that they can't resist. Pair that with his force crush, and all of a sudden everything that you touch is going to melt when you use your culling blade. It's a lot of fun. Not only that, but I've also thrown in Death Trooper over here. And Death Trooper has another rather fancy capable ability of being able to put heal immunity out. Look at that, they've got heal immunity. What are you going to do now? Exactly, absolutely nothing. They can't heal if they've got heal immunity. That's kind of the nature of the title, really, isn't it? So we nearly lose Mara Jade a couple of times here, thanks to all the counterattacks that's coming out of the team, and then Thrawn decides to fracture Dengar into the underworld. Pretty straightforward, though. Pretty straightforward. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is going to do it for Sector 2, another pretty cheesy feat. If you haven't already watched it, go check out my Sector 1 video. We'll help you get those feats done very, very easily. And stay tuned for the Sector 3 feats, because you know I'm going to be getting them out soon as possible. Make sure you like if you haven't already, and hit that subscribe button and help us grow the tribe ever larger still. Massive shout out to my wonderful patrons. These videos are because you guys support me. Thank you so much. Until the very next video on Sector 3, peace out, and may the Force be with you.